Today we're doing the brakes on the 300. I've got all the cars turned around. I've got the 300 in the garage now, brought in backwards so that we can pull the wheels and tires off and change the pads, and I am changing the rotors while I'm at it. I was able to get a full set of pads and rotors slotted and drilled for $280, so I am definitely upgrading the car and putting slotted and drilled rotors on it, along with some good ceramic pads. So hang tight, and I'll be right back in what seems like a second to you, but it'll be a few minutes for me while I take the back tires off, jack the car up, put it on jack stands, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, it's going to get loud for a couple of minutes here while I pull this wheel off. I am only doing one side at a time. I had to break out the breaker bar and get these loose because whoever put these wheels on cranked them tight. Definitely not the way to do things. These are 22 millimeters, just so you know. You have to be real careful with these because they're metal with a cap on them, kind of thing. So if you tear up the cap, they're harder than heck to get on and off. So you got to be careful of that. Most definitely. Replacements that they buy, they don't have this stainless cap wrapped around them. You can actually get them where they're one piece and they're stainless. Or actually they're solid steel, but that's what I did on the front. Was I got tired of these caps tearing up. You look at them, they look real worn and stuff, just from being on and off so many times with just changing tires. So it's definitely something to look at, pay attention to, because nothing worse than that. So let's get our wheel out here. Take a look, see at what we got going on. Alrighty. Looking at the rotors, they look horrible. Definitely a issue here. They look thin, real thin. I don't know they're supposed to be, but they're noisy, so we definitely want to change them out. And so to do that, we're going to have to pull the caliper off. While we do that, of course, we're going to change the pads. So let me grab some wrenches. Sure this is the right one first. Yep, it is. All right, where's my ratchet? No. Sorry for all the sniffling, folks. When it gets cold, my nose has a fit. All right. So as I said, she's a 15 millimeter. Got to use a short. Oh, not tight at all. Good to see. This is the first time I've done the brakes in the back of this car. I bought it with about 30,000 miles on it, so she's got about 120 or 116 or something now. So it's due. And looking at those brake pads, definitely due. So first we'll pull off the calipers. Whatever. Caliper bolts. Oh, she's bigger. I do have impacts and all that kind of fun stuff, but if I do that, it'll be so noisy you won't be able to hear anything. I think she's out already, but just making sure. Yes, it feels like it's out. And on the bottom one, same, not tight, too tight at all. Before I get that one too loose, one of the things I do want to do is free up those brake pads. So let me grab my big honking screwdriver and push those back. Yeah, if you look at the caliper, you got this little slot in here. You can get a screwdriver in there and pry or loosen up your pads. Far better off than there she goes. I wouldn't normally pry on the rotor. You definitely don't want to do that. But I'm replacing them, so we're okay there. There we go. Okay, I'm back. This whole assembly is spinning with the bolt, so that's why she's not coming loose. So in a case like that, you'll just grab a hold of this, like I'm going to grab it with some channel locks, and back out the bolt. So it's simple enough to do. And grab your ratchet. Yep. Get a good grip on it, and there she goes. She'll still start coming apart. And voila, there we go. She's coming loose. And pull out the caliper bolt, push that back into the caliper so she's kind of out of the way. Notice that there is blue Loctite on this, so you want to make sure when you put it back together that you do use some Loctite. I've actually done one of these where I completely forgot back in the beginning, forgot to put that Loctite on there, and it was having all kinds of noise in the back. Pulled it apart, and the caliper actually came loose off of the rotor and was catching on the rim just a little bit. So you definitely want to use Loctite where Loctite's required. Where's my magnetic, get the magnetic tray. So I have a place to put my bolts. They don't get missing. I'll stick that right there. I'll have it. And then once again, I'm back down on the ground. Won't be able to see this one very well just because of where it's at in the back here. But let me see if I can get you a little closer to the works here. All right, like I say, we want to grab that. I'm going to block you for just a second while I hook onto this thing. Matter of fact, I'm going to switch you to the other side. Because unfortunately, I need to get in here and attack this thing. There are a lot of really good videos out there on doing your brakes. And like I say, it's not as hard as everybody likes to think it might be. These guys that do it for a living do it for a living for a reason. Widen the jaw on this a little bit because she's getting rude. Get her in there real good. And same as the other one. She's coming loose without any troubles. Push that sleeve back in. And pop that on our magnet. And find our screwdriver. Let's see how easy she comes off. She's coming off real easy. So bring you over here a little bit more. Back over to this side where all the action's at. Okay, so we're going to pull the caliper off. She's a little bit stubborn. Hang it up here so that you're not stretching the line. Do not let it hang off on the line. Just put it right up there out of the way. This next one, and of course you pull your pads out. Where'd my screwdriver go? Right there behind me. One of the fun part about working on cars is remembering where your tools are at. These suckers are stuck in there real good. So normally I wouldn't use, like I said, I wouldn't use the face of the rotor to get them loose, but since I'm replacing, since I'm replacing the rotors anyway, you see there's still some life left in them, not much. Tiny, tiny bit. And then the back one, where's she at? There she is. And hold on to them because we're going to use them to push the piston back. Then the next thing we've got to take off is going to be this bracket. I always leave these clips in because sometimes the clips that come with the kit are cheaply made. Factory ones are usually pretty good. Let's see what size this one is. Feels like a 17 or 18. So put our 15 over here. Let me go grab. Okay, now I got to pull the caliper bolts. So, get ready to grab, hold, and pull, and it comes off the bolt. How nice. Not a really good spot to be in, but we'll give it a shot. There she goes. All right, that one's loose. And let's see if we can get on that other one. Let's see if we can do one more. There we go. Get out there, you. There she goes. All right. Now we go to the ratchet. I'll bring you folks back over here again so you can see what's going on. There are two bolts back here. Both of them are 18 millimeters. Broke them loose with the breaker bar. Now I can just pull them off with the ratchet. Because in order to get this off, you got to take this off. Okay. I think it's long, isn't it? And notice there is no Loctite on this bolt at all. So you follow suit with the same. You don't, if it doesn't have Loctite on it, don't put it on there. Especially based on where these are located. They're kind of tough to get to. Let's do this one. These are the factory shocks too. Factory everything on this car. Nothing's really been touched. The only been done is regular oil changes, and there you go. The rotor is off. So now, put this over here and move some of these tools that I don't need out of the way. Brake bar. Everything where I know where it's at. But on this, you'll notice that there's these little clips, retaining clips for the brake or for the drum. Sometimes if you spin them, they'll come off relatively easy. Sometimes they won't. If they don't, then you just have to bend the tabs back up. So it's got little tabs on it. You just kind of bend them up. And that'll let you get them loose a lot easier. Just go around and loosen each one of them. We won't be reusing that one. Then all we do is pull the rotor off. A lot of times they're stuck because of make sure you're not pounding on the shield and you're pounding on the drum. I like to bang around it and get it to break loose. Let's see. Wiggle her off. There is a emergency brake behind this thing, so that's why what's the resistance. On the front, they just pop right off. Cut on the bottom down here. There we go, and voila, the rotor is off. Here are those back brakes I was talking about. They're pretty crusty, but the only thing they do is the emergency brake, and you can tell by looking at the inside that they aren't used much, just based on the amount of rust that's there. Make sure you clean all this up. Don't leave a bunch of garbage on here. And then grab your new rotor. Give me 1 second, and I'll grab that. Now, one of the things you want to pay attention to with these new rotors, because they are slotted and drilled, they are directional. So do not put them on backwards. These are nice because, as I'll show you, they have driver's side written on the, let me get you a little closer to it. Give me a second. You look at the rotor, it's got a little tag on it. It says left driver's side. So it tells you both what they are. So that'll help you when you're putting these on, because they are, like I said, they are directional. The reason they're directional is because they're slotted and drilled, so it's got to allow the gases to pass out of the rotor. These are also zinc plated, so definitely a plus. So everything just gets done in reverse direction. Boom, that's on. See how quick that is? New parts are so nice. Then we just remount our bracket. Double checking again to make sure there was no Loctite on them. I don't see anything in blue at all. So these are just torqued. I do have the brake pads. These are all was it TRQ, I think? Yeah, TRQ. There's your new pads. Comes with new grease, new hardware. I didn't use this hardware on the front because it just wasn't good, I guess is the way to put it. Here, let me tilt you down a little bit so you can kind of see here on the ground. Here's our caliper bracket. You see how it's got the little metal clips in it? So what it'll generally do is I'll pop one out. Now, one of the things you want to pay attention to is there appears to be two different sized brackets. Let's see if you can see them from up here. You move it down a little bit. You've got a smaller one and a larger one. So these are definitely the smaller. So the larger ones can go away. in place of the small ones. That's a large one, that's a small one, there's a small one. So we've got 2 smalls, 2 larges, so they give you, this kit must be universal for a bunch of different cars. That's why they give you all these extra all this extra hardware is for whatever car it fits. You only need 2. So put everything back in the bag, back in the box. And we're going to crack open these pads. Bring it back up again. And set you right up there. So we have our new pads. And trash. But you got 4 pads, and if you look at them, they appear to all be the same. That makes it real nice. You don't have to guess which is inner, outer. You got your wear indicators. When you're hearing that squealing on your brakes right at the beginning, that's these indicators telling you it's time to replace your brakes. So pay attention to that. Otherwise, you could be facing a problem later. One of the last things I'm going to do, I'm going to put these other 2 pads inside here. I'm going to put this retainer back on the disc because I like these because they make things nice. And the only thing you got to do is take your screwdriver and push your tabs back in. Pretty easy to do. As long as they stay still, which they don't. But yeah, just push the tabs back in to lock them in place. They can move around, but once you've got them all locked in, they'll stop. It'll stop moving as it tightens. So give this a couple of cranks. Make sure that's all the way on. Got a couple more I got to push down. Okay, that's that. So looking at the hardware, we're comparing the 2 hardware. Make sure they're exactly the same. Make sure they're exactly the same width. Make sure they're exactly the same depth. And you'll notice any differences if you hold them together. These appear to be exactly right. So we'll put these back in place of the old ones. It's interesting, though, that they have 2 different sizes. You got a pair of locks that go right over the top of that, and then this just pushes all the way in. And same with the other side. And you can do this once they're back in the car, but sometimes it's just easier to do it here. This one doesn't want to go all the way in because it's not all the way over. There it goes. And voila, the new hardware's there. So first things first, put those right there. We want to remount our calipers. So I'll bring it back over a little bit. Little hardware over here for the trash pile. Well, these things just don't stay put, do they? Screwdriver and push them in. Up over here. Yeah, when they're brand new, they don't like to go in place. I just grab the screwdriver and push them in so that they're all the way in, and they won't give you any trouble that way. And then same with the other side. Push the bracket so it's all the way in, and over here too. That makes sure you got them all the way tight in the bracket. And work smart. And I set down the bolt. Of course I did, right here. All right, go back in and remount the caliper bracket. Up and down there. Get it on there. Sorry, folks, I gotta stick my head in here for a minute. Now, the last thing we want to do before we put in the brake pads is we want to grease them up a little bit. So remember, it's got they slide here, so you definitely want grease in there so that it's got plenty of lubrication to move. You've heard anybody talk about brakes hanging up. This is one of the reasons it does it. This is the wonderful thing. Oh, look, it's anti-seize. I have a whole bottle of this stuff. So I'll put it liberal on the brackets so that there's lots of room for it to slip. Okay, that's that side and that side. Okay, put that back in there. Love these Harbor Freight gloves. When you do put this stuff on, don't touch the pad after you've touched these. Grab my paper towels and clean it off. And you just put your pads right in place. And you'll see it's got little guides. Making sure every one of them is exactly the same. Get her into that guide. And they're going to want to fight you. They always do. This is why I like the factory ones. They usually just go right on in. Yep, we're off down there. We got to come out just a pinch. And here she goes. Ta-da! On. And I need to take this glove off because it's got yuts all over it. And we'll put the second pad on. And the same thing, it's all lubed up, so it slides in first and then into the mount itself. You could do this with the caliper still off the car if it makes it easier for you. Sometimes it does, especially this one because you can't see it. So once again, I'm going to block your view for just a moment. Sorry about that. I had to do a quick battery change because I had the same battery in it from when I did Cars and Coffee. I will throw in a few of those clips here pretty quick. I think this one's more important, but that's this side of the brakes done, cleaned up, ready to go, tire ready to go back on. And then I'm going to go tackle the other side. Once I'm done with that, then we'll move on to the next project. I'm not going to bore you with of doing the other side because you kind of get the idea. This is an area that you can really save some money. You just have to be very, very careful and pay attention to what you're doing. Take pictures if you've never done it before. Watch a lot of videos, that kind of thing. And this will be real easy. I taught my son how to change his brake shoes. Definitely a cheap way to go. He knows how to do them. He was actually going to do these when it was snowing, and I'm like, just wait until it warms up. We did the front ones. That'll be enough to stop her and or slow her down. Let me get you out of the light. It's really hard to get you out of light because I have so many in here. And no matter what direction you point, my lights are all working. But anyway, it's we're all set and we're all done doing this. And I'll see see you on the flip in just a couple of seconds for you, and probably about 20 or 30 minutes for me. I wasn't going to tape anymore until I came across this. She had complained that there was noise back here. I'll bet there was noise back here. If you look, the disc is usually out to about here. There's a piece of the disc that ripped off. What happened was, and actually I think, yeah, this is definitely the disc, or the has to be, because a bunch of it is missing. See how you put this through here? And this has evidently been doing this for quite some time, because she's ground down, and you can see that cup in it. The pad is in two pieces. Here's the front, and here's the back. This was mounted on the back right there, and it just disintegrated and took out, because this fell off. The only thing holding that thing on was gravity. She's down to the nub on it and actually tore the brake apart. This other pad on the other side, you can clearly see where the brakes were and were not. This is something you don't see very often, but this disc blew apart a long time ago, because the difference in the wear of the pad is just unbelievable. So yeah, if it starts making noise, there's another thing it could be. So I just wanted to turn it back on and show you this side before I blew it apart. Be careful with brakes. Looks like this is the only damage it did. Looks like I ran out of memory right at the time where I was having all the fun. The disc actually split. Here, I'll show you. The disc actually split away from the interior part of the disc. So getting it off was loads of fun. I had to get a screwdriver in here and work my way around the whole thing, prying it loose. So for those of you that run into this issue, definitely want to be careful with that. You start hearing that noise, definitely want to at least look in there. I'm really surprised I did not see it when I was inspecting the brakes the last time. Or what really shocks me is this has been going on for a while. This car has been inspected every 5,000 miles by Chrysler. And for them not to see this, it tells me that they're not looking at anything anymore. They're just running through the oil change and calling it done and moving along to the next project. So once again, everybody needs to be careful about who they let work on their car. Granted, you could see the disc actually separated when I took the wheel off, and I didn't look at it when I was putting it together, but that tells you that someone somewhere wasn't doing the job that they were supposed to. So just a word of advice out there for all of you who say, oh yeah, the dealer's going to do the best job. Well, in this case, somebody dropped the ball, especially during inspection time. This is, when you're running a shop, the best way to make money is to find things like this so that you can offer to repair them for the customer. And clearly, somebody totally dropped it on this one. I've already cleaned everything out, and everything's ready for the disc to go on. So we'll do that next. I've already run the caliper back and everything just like I did on the other side. On this side, all the little thingies that hold this sucker on broke. So
I've gone to gloves off, but yeah, the disc was about this big. So it burned through all of this disc. And this is some thick material too. So definitely someone somewhere dropped the ball completely on this on this PM. But yeah, all you had to do was look through your discs, and you know, I spend a lot of time staring at the front of the car and not so much the back. So this tells you should pay attention to both sides, definitely. That way you know for sure it's getting done right. So just a word of advice for everybody out there. With that, I'm going to end this segment of the video and move on to the next project. I definitely wanted to show you this disc. It's just unbelievable. Matter of fact, before I do, this piece is part of the old disc. This shows you how thick that disc was. That is how much it ground out of it. This didn't happen overnight. This happened over a series of miles and miles and miles, and just started acting up a few months ago. But this burning out, it was just in for an oil change maybe a month ago, maybe a month and a half. Someone should have seen this. Folks at your service departments, you guys need to pay attention to these things. This could have been some serious damage. Number one, if a customer had a disc in this kind of condition and this much of that disc was missing, that's a problem. Considering this is the only piece that was left from the disc. So when y'all are looking at these cars, you do need to look at everything on these cars, not just kind of get it in and out for that oil change. So you need to talk to your oil change people. If you're rotating the tires, how did you not see this is a real big question. Because every time she takes it in, they rotate the tires and change the oil. This tells me they didn't rotate anything. Or if they did, they had somebody doing it who didn't know what they were doing. That plain as day. So once again, just a lesson learned. Pay attention to who's working on your car. Pay attention if they're paying attention. This tells me right now to take it to a different Chrysler dealership for service, because clearly these guys don't know what they're doing. That's the end of this segment, and I'll see you back in a second in the next one.